Okay, we'll get started. So thank you for joining. So just like with all the other classes, I've picked out a few exam questions that I think could potentially come up tomorrow. So we'll go through the exam questions, and if you've got any questions, just drop them in the chat, and then we'll leave some as well at the end for any questions that any of you might have. So let's jump straight into it. So the first question says, an area is formed by a square, so I can see the square ABCD there, and a semicircle. BD is the diameter of the semicircle, so I can see that as well there. The radius of the semicircle is 4 meters, so I could put that on. So if the radius is 4 meters, so halfway, then the full of it will be 8. So we can say that's 8 meters there, the whole thing. The area is going to be covered completely with lawn seed. A box of lawn seed covers 25 meters squared. So you can see they've worked out area there, looking at the unit. So meter squared is area. How many boxes of lawn seed will be needed? You must show you're working out. So if we know one box is going to cover 25 meters squared, we need to figure out what is the area of all of this to figure out how many boxes we need. And to work out the area of this, we're going to work out the area of the square, and we're going to work out the area of the semicircle. So since it's a square, if we know this side's 8 meters because we know the radius is 4 meters, then this side over here also must be 8 meters as well, since it's a square. So we can work out area of the square, which is just 8 times 8. So 64 meters squared. And now we just need to work out area of the semicircle. Now remember, area of a circle is pi r squared, but since it's a semicircle, we're dividing that by 2. The radius is 4. So we've got 4 squared times pi over 2. 4 squared, 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. So we've got 8 pi meters squared as the area of the semicircle. So if we add both of them together, so total area is 64 plus 8 pi. So putting that in the calculator, that gives me 89.1327 continues forever meters squared. So we know one box is going to be for 25 meters squared. We need to figure out how much for 89. So we could just keep potentially going up. So if one box is 25 meters squared, let's see how much 2 boxes will cover. Well, we'll times by 2. So we're going to times this side by 2. So we get 15 meters squared. That's still not enough because we need 89. So let's do 3 boxes. For 3 boxes, I would just total up these two. So 1 plus 2 is 3. So therefore, I would just add these two together. So 50 plus 25. So that gives me 75 meters squared. That's still not enough. We need 89 at least. So let's check 4 boxes. We could get this 2 box one here and we could times it by 2. So we would times this one by 2. 50 times 2 gives us 100 meters squared. So we need 4 boxes. 3 boxes is not enough. So we would need 4 boxes to cover the whole lawn. Because 3 boxes is not enough since it's 75. So that's that one. I guess what's important with that as well is just make sure you know how to find the area of a circle and the circumference as well of a circle, whether it's semicircle, it's quarter of a circle, and so on. So moving on. Question 2, we've got a circle theorems question here. So straight away I can see that's the diameter over here because it's passing through the center. ABC are points on the circumference of the circle, which I can see here. They're all on the circumference. Angle CAB is 2x, which is already on the diagram, and angle ABC is 3x, which I can see here. Find the value of x, and you must surely working. Now we can see here, since this line here is right down the middle of the circle, this here is a semicircle. So that's a semicircle. So the circle theorem that's here is the angles in a semicircle are 90 degrees at the circumference. So I basically know that ACB is 90 degrees. So therefore ACB is 90 degrees. So this is one of the 8 theorems that you need to know. So just make sure you know all your circle theorems because it hasn't come up for, I know for Edexcel paper 1 it hasn't come up. I'm not too sure about AQA. But yeah, we know this is 90 here. So now we can find x because we know angles in a triangle add up to 180. Add up to 180 degrees. So the reason why this is 3 marks is they want your reasonings. A lot of people just assume that the examiner will know that you know angles in a triangle add up to 180, but you should write it down. So saying this statement, we can basically say that 2x plus 3x plus 90 equals 180 degrees because we've got 3 angles in that triangle. So adding them all up together, making it equal to 180, and we're solving this to find x. 2x add 3x is 5x, add 90 equals 180. Let's get this 90 over to the right-hand side. So we're going to minus it. So 5x equals 90 because 180 minus 90 is 90. And to get rid of that 5, since it's 5 times x, we're going to divide. So 90 divided by 5 gives me 18. So x is 18. So that's just one example of the circle theorems that could potentially come up. Okay, moving on. So we've got a probability equations one now. So this one's quite a tricky one, but we'll work through it. So there are only green pens and blue pens in a box. So right off the bat, I can say there's green, there's blue, and then my total. So this should just be standard behavior when you're doing these questions. Put what options you get and then your total, because your probability will always be whatever it is out of the total. Okay. So there are 3 more blue pens than green pens in the box. So if we called green X, and we know there's 3 more blue pens than green pens in the box, we can say blue is X plus 3 because there's 3 more than green. So therefore we can figure out what the total is now. We're just adding the green and blue together. So green and blue, X plus X is 2X, and then we've got plus 3. So just doing this right at the start makes the whole question a whole lot easier for you. Okay, it then says there are more than 12 pens in the box. So this will help us at the end when we're actually trying to find out X and deciding which value of X to take. Simon is going to take at random 2 pens from the box. So notice how in this sentence, he's not putting the pen back into the box. So that means the second probability will be different. When you go into the exam tomorrow, do try and critically read every single sentence rather than just reading all of it and then analyzing it. You don't have that time. Okay, so the probability that Simon will take 2 pens of the same color is 27 out of 55. Well, the only probabilities that could be is probability that it could be green, green. That's the same color. And the probability that it'd be blue, blue. Because he's picking 2 pens of the same color. So adding them 2 probabilities together, we get 27 over 55. And it says work out the number of green pens in the box. So that just basically means find X is what we need to do. Okay, so we've analyzed the probability question. Now let's actually solve it. So probability of green, green. So what I've essentially done so far, all this here, I've just rewrote out the whole question, but in mathematical terms, because it's quite hard to go back in and search for your information. So probability of green, green. What's the probability that the first one will be green? Well, it's X out of the total. So X over 2X plus 3. And because we're doing the probability that the second one will be green, we times at this point. So remember, when you're combining probabilities of different ones, you add them. But in the same choice, so in probability of green, green, you times. Okay, so for the first one, it's X over 2X plus 3. But because we've taken 1 green out of the box, we've got 1 less green in the box. So we don't have X anymore, we've got X minus 1. And again, with the total's no longer 2X plus 3, it's 1 less, it's 2X plus 3 minus 1, which gives us 2X plus 2. Okay, so that's what we've got for this. Let's simplify this. Always recommend putting brackets around these expressions so you don't miss out when timesing. So we've got x times x is x squared, x times minus 1 is minus x, over 2x times 2x is 4x squared. We've got 2x times 2, which is 4x, and then we've got 3 times 2x, which is 6x, so 4x and 6x is 10x. And then finally, 3 times 2 just gives us 6. So we can't do anything more with that. That's simplified. So we've done probability of green, green. Now let's do probability of blue, blue. So probability of blue, blue. So the probability that the first one will be blue is x plus 3, which is here, out of the total, which is 2x plus 3. And just like last time, we're timesing. The probability that the second one will now be blue is 1 less. So it's not x plus 3 anymore, it's x plus 3 minus 1 because there's 1 less blue pen. So it's x plus 2 over, the total is no longer 2x plus 3, you've taken 1 out, so it's 2x plus 2. Again, putting brackets around all these so you expand it correctly. Expanding this on the top, x times x is x squared, x times 2 is 2x, 3 times x is 3x, and then 3 times 2 is just 6, over 4x squared plus 2x times 2 is 4x, plus 3 times 2x, 6x, 3 times 2 is 6. Let's simplify the top and bottom. On the top, we get x squared. Combining these two together, 2x add 3x is 5x, plus 6 over, on the bottom, 4x squared, plus 10x, sorry, plus 6. Okay, so we found the probability of blue, blue now as well. So we've got it there, and we've got the probability of green, green. Now what we need to do is we need to add both them fractions together and make it equal to 27 over 55, and we're going to solve it. So that's what I'm going to do now. So the probability of green, green, which is this here, x squared minus x over 4x squared plus 10x plus 6. We're adding that to probability of blue, blue, which we found here, 4x squared plus 10x plus 6 on the denominator. And we know that this equals to 27 over 55 because it told us in the question that the probability he'll take 2 pens of the same color is 27 out of 55. So this is essentially what we're solving. Now, when we're adding fractions, the denominators have to be the same, and we're lucky that the denominators are both the same in this case. So what we can do is we can just put it all over one fraction. So we've got x squared add x squared, which is 2x squared. So I'm just combining these on top together. I've got minus x add 5x, so plus 4x. And then I've got plus 6. So I've dealt with all the top. That's over the same denominator, 4x squared plus 10x plus 6, and that just equals 27 over 55. What I'm now going to do here is, let me just make this a bit smaller, stick it over here. Okay. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to cross multiply because I need to get rid of the denominators. So I'm going to bring the 55 up to here. So I'm going to times the 55 up. At the same time, I'm also going to times this whole expression up to here as well. So we call that cross multiplying. If you're not too comfortable doing that, you can use a different method, like bringing this up and then dividing by 27 over 55, but it just takes longer. I'm going to cross multiply. So 55 comes up to here, 55 times 2x squared plus 4x plus 6 equals 27 times 4x squared plus 10x plus 6. Let's expand now. 55 times 2x squared is 110x squared, plus 55 times 4 is 220x, plus 55 times 6 is 330, equals 27 times 4x squared, 108x squared, plus 270x plus 27 times 6 gives us 162. Now we've got a quadratic because I've got something x squared, I've got something x, and I've got a number. So I've got them three terms. So quadratics, we always make them equal to 0. So I'm going to bring everything over to the side where x squared stays positive. So if I minus 108x squared, I'll get 2x squared. So I'm going to bring all the right-hand side over to the left-hand side. Okay, so minusing 108x squared, I get 2x squared. Minusing 270x, I get minus 50x. And then minusing 162, so 330 minus 162 gives me 168 equals 0. This is what we're solving now to find x, but I can make it easier. They're all multiples of 2, so I can divide the whole thing by 2. So I get x squared minus 25x plus 168 divided by 2 gives me 84, and that equals 0. Now it's up to you how you want to solve this. You can either use a quadratic formula, which I probably would do in the exam because it's quite tricky to find two numbers at times to give you 84 and add to give you minus 25. Or you can just simply factorize it. Just because of time, I'm going to factorize this, but you can use the quadratic formula. So two numbers at times to give me 84 and add to give me minus 25 is minus 4 and minus 21. So therefore, x equals 4 or x equals 21, but we can't have two values of x. What does x represent? X is the number of green pens. Is it pens? Yeah. So we can't have 4 green pens and 21 green pens. We need to choose one of these answers. And this is where this statement comes into place. So this here, there are more than 12 pens in the box. We know the total is 2x plus 3. So I'm going to write this down here. The total is 2x plus 3. Now, if I make x equal 4, what do I get as the total? I get 2 times 4, so I'm plugging 4 in. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 3 gives me 11. But we've just said in the question that there's more than 12 pens in the box. So therefore, x can't be 4. So therefore, x must be 21. You would just say x is 21. There are 21 green pens in the box. So that was quite a tricky probability equations one. Hopefully, if you do get this one, you'll be able to get any of them. But the most important takeaway from this is analyzing the question. This here, where you put your options and then your total, it'll make the whole question a whole lot easier for you. So that's that. If you've got no questions, we'll move on. Let's do question 4. Okay, factorize fully. This here, so we're just pulling out the maximum number, the x's and the y's. So in terms of number, the number that goes in both 8 and 20, the highest one is 4. The x's, I've got x to the power of 4 here, and I've got x here, so I can't, the maximum amount I can only pull out is just x. And y, again, I've only got 1 in the first one and 3 in the next one, so I can only pull out just one y. 4 times something gives me 8, so 4 times 2. X times something gives me x to the power 4. That's x cubed because we're just adding the powers. 1 add 3 is 4. And then y, we've already got the y, so that term's done. 4 times something gives me 20. That's 5. X we've already got, and then y squared because y times y squared gives you y cubed. So I'd always recommend expanding it as well if you get time in the exam. Just see if you do end up getting the original question. Okay, moving on, simple interest and compound interest. So Zara has £2,500 to invest for 4 years. She sees 2 different offers. So we can see simple interest one, and we've got a compound interest one. Work out how much more interest she would receive using offer 1 compared to offer 2. So we want to work out how much interest she's getting from both of these. So let's start off with offer 1. So it's simple interest of 6% per year. So our multiplier is 0.06. So we are going to work out what's 6% of £2,500. So 6% of 2,500 is £150. So that means in 1 year, she's getting £150 interest from offer 1. but she's got it for 4 years. So I would do the profit, the interest, 150 times 4 years. And in the 4 years, that's £600. So that's how much interest made from offer one. That's not her end balance. Remember, her end balance, you add that to 2,500. So this is the interest. So just make sure you're aware of what you're finding out. Now let's look at offer two. So this is a compound interest one. So you need to know the formula for this. So our multiplier is 0.045% for this one. But we add it to 100%. So some people do 100, add 4.5, and then change it to the multiplier. Or you can do this way, you'll still get the same answer. The equation for compound interest, you put your amount, starting amount in, so £2,500, times your multiplier, so we're doing 1, add 0.045, so it gives us 1.045. We do that to the power of years that they're keeping the money in, and it's for 4 years. And the answer we get to that, 2,500 times 1.045 to the power of 4, we get £2,981.30. So I get 2,965. So I'll just write that down actually. The answer I actually got was, in the calculator, was 2,981.296502. So you can see this 6 here rounds that up to the next one. So I have to round that to a 3. So that's why it's 30. But that's not the interest, that's our final amount. We want the interest that she's actually made off that. Why is it 0.06? It's 6% for this one here. That's why. 6% as a decimal is 0.06. For offer two, it's 4.5%. Okay, so this is not the interest amount, so we need to minus what the money she's put in, which is £2,500. So if I do 2,981.30 minus 2,500, this is going to give me the interest. If I minus 2,500, I get £481.30. So again, I've got the interest. So that's my interest for offer two. This is my interest for offer one. What's the question asking? The question says how much more interest would she receive by using offer one compared to offer two? So I need to find the difference between these. So we will do 600 minus £481.30, and we get £118.70. So that's how much more money she's made using the simple interest one. So just make sure you're careful on what the question's actually asking. In this case, it was talking about the interest, so the money made from putting it in, not the actual end balance. The end balance would include the £2,500. So that was a good question comparing both of them. Okay, let's move on. Okay, question 6. A straight line, so something of y equals mx plus c. As soon as you see straight line, you should just be thinking y equals mx plus c. It passes through the points with these coordinates and is perpendicular to this line. Now, as soon as you see that perpendicular word, that means it's the negative reciprocal. Because remember, perpendicular lines meet at 90 degrees. So it's always the negative reciprocal gradient. Remember, parallel lines have the same gradient. So make sure you know the difference between parallel and perpendicular. Okay, so find the equation of the straight line L. So if we're finding an equation, we're finding y equals mx plus c. So we need to find the gradient, and we also need to find the y-intercept. These are the two things we need. So in terms of the gradient, we know the gradient of line L is perpendicular to this line here. So if I find the gradient of y equals 2x plus 3, remember gradient is the number always in front of x. Now just be careful that your equation is given in the form y equals mx plus c. Sometimes it might be like 2y plus 3x equals 5, and then you have to rearrange it. and get it into this form. So we know the gradient is just 2. So therefore, the negative reciprocal of that is you flip it over. So remember, 2 is the same as 2 over 1. 2 divided by 1 is 2. You flip that over, so you get a half, and you put a minus sign in front of it. So we've got our gradient. Our gradient is a half, minus a half, so we can plug that in. We've got y equals minus a half x plus c. So we need to find c. And the way we find c is we have to substitute an existing coordinate they've given us, and they've told us one coordinate. 4, 7 lies on the line L. So we can plug this in to this equation here. So we get y, which is 7, equals minus a half times x, which is 4, plus c. So I'm solving this to find c. So 7 equals minus a half times 4 is minus 2 plus c. So c just equals, I want to plus 2 to the other side. 7 plus 2 is 9. So that's our final equation. Y equals minus a half x plus c, which we've just found as 9. And that's our answer. So be quite confident with these kind of questions. Sometimes they'll say perpendicular, they might say parallel, so it's the same gradient. Sometimes they trick you and they don't give that in the right format, so you have to rearrange it and make it of the form y equals mx plus c. Okay, so that's that question. Let's move on. Okay, so another one here. So it's saying, show that this line is perpendicular to this line. So perpendicular, both gradients have to be the negative reciprocal of each other. Now, the issue I can see with both these lines, they're not in the form y equals mx plus c. So let's rearrange them first. So 3y equals 4x minus 14. I need y by itself, so I'm going to divide by 3. So y equals 4 over 3x minus 14 over 3. Okay, so I've sorted this one out. Let's sort out this one here. 4y equals minus 3x plus 48. I need to get rid of that 4. So I'm going to divide by 4. So minus 3/4 x plus 48 divided by 4 gives us 12. Okay, so done that one. So I can see the gradient for both of these now. The gradient for that first one is the number in front of the x, so 4 over 3. And the gradient for this one, again, is just the number that's in front of the x, and it's minus 3/4. Now, if I work out the negative reciprocal of this one here, we just flip it over, so 3/4, and then we put a minus sign in front of it, which is what's here. So they are perpendicular to each other, but on the mark scheme, they want you to write a really particular statement as well. They want you to say that if you get 4 over 3 and you times it by minus 3/4, this should give you minus 1. So if I times the top, 4 times minus 3 is minus 12 over 3 times 4, which is 12. Minus 12 divided by 12 is just minus 1. So you have to show that both your gradients, when you times them together, you get minus 1. So a lot of people miss this last step here. And then just write a little concluding statement that, therefore, both these lines are perpendicular to each other. Okay, and that's for 4 marks. Okay, moving on, we've got a bounds question now. So I don't think a bounds one came in the first paper. Okay, so it says here, a train traveled along the track in 110 minutes, correct to the nearest 5 minutes. So as soon as you see the word nearest in a question, that's a big clue that it's a bounds question. So that's a giveaway. So we've got time, I guess, in minutes. Jake finds out the track is 270 kilometers long, and that's correct to the nearest 10 kilometers. Could the average speed, so how do we work out speed? Speed is distance divided by time. So remember your triangle. Let me just put it over here. So distance, speed, time. So it's in alphabetical order. So speed is just distance divided by time. Okay. Could the average speed of the train have been greater than 160 kilometers per hour? You must show you get your answer. So before doing anything, I'm going to work out the bounds of both the time and the distance that they've given us. So time is 110 minutes, correct to the nearest 5 minutes. I'm going to add 5, so I get 115. And I'm going to minus 5, so I get 105. And my bounds are what I find in the middle of both of them. Now, if you can't spot what number should be in between, say 105 and 110, so I know it's 107.5, you could just add both numbers together. So 105, add 110, and divide it by 2 to figure out what's in the middle of both of them. Between 110 and 115, that's 112.5. So this is my upper bound, and that's my lower bound for time. Let's do the same for the distance now. We've got 270 kilometers to the nearest 10 kilometers. So adding 10, I get 280. Minusing 10, I get 260. In between both of these, so in between 260 and 270, that's 265. In between 270 and 280, that's 275. So there's my lower bound and my upper bound for distance. Now we want to work out the greatest speed. So because we want to see, can it be greater than 160 kilometers per hour? So we want to work out the greatest speed. And we know speed is distance divided by time. Now the question is, are we going to use the upper bound or the lower bound for each of distance or time and time? And when we're working out the greatest speed and we're dividing two numbers, we always do the greater one on the top and the lower one on the bottom. So we're doing the greatest distance divided by the lower time. Instead of using the word greater, I'm going to use the word upper because it's an upper bound, but it doesn't really matter, you'll still get the marks. So our upper distance is 275, and our lower time is 107.5, but there's another thing you need to notice. Our units is kilometers per hour. So our units for distance is fine. That's in kilometers, so that's good. But our time is in minutes. But we don't want it in minutes, we want it in hours. So we need to change this 107.5 minutes into hours. So 107.5 minutes, to change that to hours, we need to divide by 60 because there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. So that gives us 107.5 divided by 60. That's 1.791 hours, correct 3 decimal places. So 1.791. So we've just I'm going to put 6 there as well, actually, because just keep it a bit more accurate. Okay. So yeah, we've converted the time to hours. So putting that in the calculator, we get 275 divided by that, we get 153.49, correct 2dp, kilometers per hour. So we've just worked out what's the greatest speed it could possibly be. The question said, could the average speed of the train have been greater than 160 kilometers per hour? Well, no, because we've just worked out the greatest speed, and the greatest speed is 153.49, and 153.49 is less than 160 kilometers per hour. So therefore, the average speed of the train can't be greater than that number. So that's how you do that upper and lower bounds question. Any questions on that, or is that okay? Let's move on to question 9. Okay, straight away looking at this, it's a non-right angled triangle. So when you've got non-right angled triangles, it's always sine rule or cosine rule, or if it's something to do with area, it could be half AB sine C. So these are with the non-right angled triangles. So whenever you get a triangle, you should always check, is it a non-right angled or is it right angled? If you've had a right angled triangle, if it was right angled, it would either be Pythagoras. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared, or SOHCAHTOA. If you're not too familiar with these as well, there is a foundation class that took place earlier, so you can have a look at the recording for that. So yeah, make sure you understand them two differences. So in this case, we've got a non-right angle triangle. As you can see, there's some unknown lengths. So I've got an x here, I've got an x there, and I've got an angle. It says work out the value of x. So looking at this, I've got three lengths, 1, 2, 3 lengths, and I've got one angle. So what's perfect to use for this is the cosine rule. So you don't need to memorize the cosine rule. The cosine rule is as follows. It says a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a, where all the little letters are lengths and the capital letters are angles. So with your cos, even in SOHCAHTOA as well, you can never put a length with your sine, cos, or tan. It's always an angle. And then the little letters are your lengths. So this works perfectly with this. We've got 1, 2, 3 lengths, which you can see here. And we've got an angle. Now with the cosine rule, always label your angle first because we've only got one angle. So your length matters which one is that. So this is going to be our angle A. Just use a red pen. That's angle A. Opposite angle A is length A. So since that one's opposite, this is going to be length A. Now it doesn't matter which one's B or C out of the other two because the angles don't really matter in this case because we've only got one angle. So you could just call this B and you could call this C, but even if you did it the other way around, you'll still get the same answer. So all we're doing is we're just substituting them into the equation. Let's see what we get. So we've got a squared, so the square root of 73 all squared equals b squared, which is 2x minus 3 squared, plus c squared, which is x plus 2 squared, minus 2 times b times c cos a, which is 60. So this is what we're going to be simplifying and solving to find x. So let's jump onto it. We've got root 73 squared, the square root and squared cancel out with each other, so we're just left with 73. That equals 2x minus 3 times 2x minus 3. A really common mistake kids make, they just think it's 2x squared, well 4x squared, minus 3 squared, which is plus 9, and they don't remember you have to expand it out fully. So write it out like that. Plus x plus 2 times x plus 2 minus, let's work out what cos 60 is. So putting in your calculator, cos 60, if you've got a calculator paper tomorrow, you don't need to memorize your trig values, you've got your calculator, so use it. Cos 60 is a half, so this is a half. A half times 2 just gives me 1. So really, they've just disappeared because a half times 2 is just 1. So we're left with just 2x minus 3 x plus 2. Okay, let's expand all of these now. 73 equals 2x times 2x is 4x squared. We've got 2x times minus 3 minus 6x, minus 3 times 2x, minus 6x again, and then minus 3 times minus 3 is plus 9. Plus x times x is x squared, x times 2, 2x, 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 2 is just 4. Now this is the part where everyone gets wrong. Notice how there's a minus sign here. So this minus is going to affect everything you expand here. So before you expand, put a big bracket, because when you start simplifying, it's going to affect the answer. So we've got a minus there, put a bracket here. That's good practice. So we've got 2x times x, which is 2x squared. 2x times 2 is 4x. Minus 3 times x is minus 3x. And minus 3 times 2 is minus 6. So this minus is going to affect all the signs in here. So that's the reason why I put that big bracket. Okay, let's simplify. We've got 4x squared, add x squared. I'm going to sort this out first. Is 5x squared. I've got minus 6x, so minus 6 minus 6 plus 2 plus 2. So I get minus 8x. I've got 9 add 4. So 13 for that. So that's done. Now let's deal with this. So inside here, let's simplify the inside of that bracket first. So I've got 2x squared, 4x minus 3x is plus x, and then minus 6. Remember, this minus here is going to affect everything there. So we've got minus 2x squared. I've then got minus plus x, minus, and a plus make minus. So I've got minus x. Let me do that a bit better. And then I've got minus minus 6. Now minus minus 6, two minuses together give you a plus. So I've got plus 6. We can simplify this even further. 73 equals 5x squared minus 2x squared is 3x squared. Minus 8x minus x is minus 9x. 13 add 6 is 19. So that's what we've got here. You should notice that we've got a quadratic. We've got something x squared, something x, and a number. So we always make quadratics equal to 0. Let's bring everything over, well, just that over to this side to make it equal to 0. So we get 3x squared minus 9x. Then 19 minus 73 gives you minus 54 equals 0. So this is what we need to solve to find x. Now we can make it even more easier. These are all multiples of 3, so we can divide the whole thing by 3. So a lot of people also get confused as well. They say, like, how do I know whether to divide the whole equation by 3 or factorize out 3? If you've got an expression, so there was no equals, then you factorize out 3. But because this equals to something, I can divide by 3. So that's how you can divide out a number. So I get x squared minus 3x, and then 54 divided by 3 is minus 18. That equals 0. So you could solve this using the quadratic formula, or you could just factorize it like normal. It's up to you. Two numbers at times to give you minus 18 and add to give you minus 3 is minus 6 and plus 3. So therefore, x could either equal 6 or x could equal minus 3. But we can't have two values of x. We have to choose one of them. And what is x in this case? X is representing length. And it's impossible to have a negative length, so we're not going to choose the negative answer. So we're going to choose the positive answer, and you have to give a reason as well. Why are you choosing the positive answer? You say x cannot be negative because x is a length. So that's how you do that question. If there's no other questions, we'll move on. The final question, and then we'll stop to answer any questions anyone might have. So we've got an iterations one. This is a really common calculator paper question. So it says using this formula, so xn plus 1 equals 3 plus 9 over xn squared. They'll always give you an x0, so you're starting. So x0 is 3. Find the values of x1, x2, and x3. Now to find x1, what you do is you substitute x0 into xn. So we've got 3 plus 9 over xn squared. We're substituting in x0, so the first value, so 3 squared. So we've got 3 plus 9 over 3 squared. That gives us 4. So first value for x1 is just 4. Okay, now for x2, we substitute our value of x1 in for xn. So we've got 3 plus 9 over, this time, our answer for xn is 4 for the one before, so it's 4 squared. So putting that in the calculator. Now what I've done is, instead of putting 4, I put answer in my calculator. So I don't know if you could see that, but just underneath, instead of putting a 4 here, so I'm just going to take that out, I put answer. Because it'll take my answer from before, so 4, rather than putting the whole thing in. So putting that in the calculator, pressing equals once, I get 3.5625. So make sure you don't round any answer you get for iteration questions. Write the full thing you see on your calculator display. So now for the next one, x3, I've got 3 plus 9 over this answer, 3.5625 squared. And that gives me, so I've got answer in my calculator, so I'm just going to press equals again. And that gives me, I'm going to write here, 3.709141274. So write the entire thing that you see. So if I pressed equals again, I would get x4. If I pressed it again, I would get x5. So I can keep pressing it and it will keep going closer and closer to the answer. But here, they've only asked us find x1, x2, and x3. And that's the last question on there. So if anyone's got any questions, you can ask them now, or if not, we can end it then. Hopefully that was helpful, and good luck with your exam tomorrow.